recording. Yeah, I think we're live now. Okay, so thank you for coming out to this week's discussion of mental health. I apologize for last week. We weren't able to meet because Mr. S, wasn't feeling too great physically. So I took the day off. So thank you to those who have reached out to check up on me. I really appreciate that. But yeah, we are back with the discussion with Miss Laura. We have two guests today talking to us about the topic of
self-esteem.
I'm sorry, Miss Laura?
Self-esteem.
Self-esteem. I was looking more so for the actual title, Love and Respect Yourself. Sorry, yeah, Love and Respect Yourself. So if we could have our guests introduce themselves, your name, your title, which campus you work for, and the last part would be how you show your self-love. Maybe it's the same pre-COVID, or maybe it's changed. COVID. So yeah, if you can share one of those, would either one of you like to go first?
The studio's got to think about it.
So just to clarify here, Mr. Sale, you're asking either Ms. Cedillo or myself to answer the question of what are some things that we do to love ourselves or to show love to ourselves? Is that the question that I'm hearing you ask?
Yeah, I would love for you guys to introduce yourself. Yeah, your role, and then yeah, that question if you could.
Got it. Okay, well, my name is Jorge Arellano. I used to be the principal of Cindy Avitia High School. I am actually now a director within the network, and I focus on community engagement, meaning connecting with parents and connecting with other community organizations. So I'm very excited about doing that work. And maybe Ms. Cedillo, you introduce yourself and then we talk about, answer the question.
Sure. Hi, I'm Ms. Cedillo. I used to be an ELA teacher, but the last year I've been our ELD specialist at the Blanca campus.
Awesome. So Ms. Cedillo, how do you show love to yourself now? So, no, I can answer. I'm joking. So I think that's a very interesting question. I think that I think it's important for me, the way that I care for myself is I try to care for my body and just being careful what I put into my body. I love snacks and I love, greasy foods, but I kind of try to not overdo it, because at the end of the day, it's not necessarily great for your body, especially as you get older. When you're young, sometimes you can just burn those calories right off. But as you get older, all those things kind of catch up to you. So I'm no spring chicken, although I feel like it sometimes. And so I try to take care of my body. That's one thing. And then another thing, whenever situations get really difficult, there are times in my career, there have been times in my career, there are times in my life where maybe the input, meaning whatever I'm hearing, is not making me feel very good. It's actually making me feel bad. Like whether it's making me feel sad, mad, not very good, meaning like I'm not good enough. Whenever those feelings kind of start popping up, sometimes I like to just kind of take a little bit of time to myself and really kind of process and think about what's happening and not stay there too long, because sometimes the circumstances are going to be rough. Sometimes the people, sometimes the words that you're hearing from people might not be very uplifting. And so then you have to really take some time off and say like, okay, well, is that true? Is what I'm hearing true? Is it not true? Like, who am I? A lot of the times it's not an either or. It's not this idea of like, yes, I am bad, so therefore I should stay in these feelings, or no, I'm not bad, and I don't need to do anything about it. A lot of the times it's more like people might be asking you to make some changes, or they might be asking you like, hey, why don't you make some changes here, make some changes there, that at the end they actually better your life. But sometimes people don't know how to ask those things, or they might not do it the right way. And so anyway, when I take a little bit of time to myself, I process. And then if it's been too long, or if I'm hearing too many things, I actually have written in my notes on my iPhone, on my notes section, I wrote a few things that are words that I speak to myself. And so, those are words about who I really feel I am. It's this idea that I'm capable, I'm able to, I am a caring person, I'm a caring father, I'm a caring son, caring husband, etc. And so those words, I just tell myself those things over and over. yeah, and then go back and face the world, which again can be cruel at times. So that's a start.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
sharing that.
Yeah, thank you for being brave and going first. I was like, this is a huge question. To be honest, like self-love has been something I've been working on like the last 5 to 6 years, just like hyper focusing on it. So when you asked it, I was like, where do I begin? But I would say for me, self-love really had to do with learning to really like myself and who I am was like the biggest one. I think learning how to, like you said, like I have like a lot of hard voices in my head. So when I make mistakes, just like learning how like, oh wow, I'm really hard on myself. Like would I actually say this to my friends? Because if my friends ask me, I'm like, oh no, you're great. Don't even think that. But when it came to myself, I was like, I suck. Like, why can't I get this right? I'm trying so hard. And so learning how to like retrain those voices into positive ones was really huge for me. Being able to write them down. So write down like what I actually told myself throughout like the whole day. And man, like it was bad. Like you should see all like it was just a lot of negative things. And little things like why didn't I do that right? Or why didn't like little things throughout the day. So reframing those was really huge. Learning how to look at myself in the mirror and try to say, which is as a woman, I'm not sure how like men are like this, but it's kind of a hard thing like to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, today I feel beautiful. Today I feel great. That had been one. And then recently, the last couple years, meditation has just really changed me. I'm kind of an anxious person. And so being able to take out like 15 to 20 minutes of my day and just quiet my mind has just given me like so much more peace of mind and being able to just reset. So those are some of the tools. I've always used exercise, but I had to go deeper for those those deeper things, and affirmations. Affirmations have been pretty great as well.
Just to quickly answer your question, Miss Adil. Not all men are like this, but some men are still kind of like boys, and we look in the mirror and like, ooh, yeah, I'm yoked. You're a good-looking guy right there. Sometimes we have to motivate ourselves by looking at ourselves. So there's a lot of us that still do that. Hint me. But yeah, anyways, moving on. Miss Lara, can you give us a brief synopsis of the video and the topic?
Yeah, thank you both for sharing. I mean, you both touched on different parts and aspects of self-love and self-respect, self-esteem that I want to talk to our middle schoolers about. I think in middle school, we can all imagine how hypercritical we are to what other people say. And that's the time when we're very impressionable about our self-worth. If we hear negative things from other people, whether it's our classmates, our siblings, our cousins, even our parents, sometimes it can really stick to us when we're in middle school. And so our self-esteem is really developed by other people. And at a certain point, it might be different for all of us. We still might be working on it. We have to break away from building our self-esteem dependent on other people's opinions on us, because we can't always afford to listen to everybody that might have negative things to say over and over again. If so, you're going to be miserable, unhappy, not have strong resiliency. And I really want our middle schoolers to know that right now is when you can develop a better sense of self-love and self-esteem through a couple of things that you'd all mentioned, like affirmations, telling yourself positive things over and over again to kind of combat those negative thoughts. Exercise and taking care of your body is huge in self-esteem. Give yourself a chance. Sleep, drink water, eat healthy food. That's going to already boost your mood and how you feel about yourself, bare minimum. And the other is really choosing who's around you, if you can, to have positive influence so that you can forgive yourself the way that other people would forgive you. Kind of like Miss Idio is saying, if you're like, oh, why did I make such an awful mistake? But then someone comes in and they're like, you're great. People make mistakes. You're like, oh yeah, I am. And it makes it easier to forgive yourself in the future. So I want our students to know that our staff is committed to uplifting them, increasing their self-esteem, letting them know that we're all human. and that we all deserve love and respect, and that we do not need to earn it by changing the way we look, changing who we are. We don't need A's, and we don't need to be a certain amount of weight or look a certain way to afford to forgive ourselves, love ourselves, and respect ourselves.
Yes, thank you, Miss Laura. That's yeah, everything is on point. The first thing that pops in my head, I mean, there's always been this hot topic. I would say for quite some time about, for example, I'm going to pinpoint on one hot topic, and it's like the weight of women, how they should look in particular. Okay, so if you actually in the in the country, in this country, in the U.S., if you look at the average weight of women and what people ideally think is should be the size and shape of women in particular, it's very different when you compare the two. And so that has changed over decades as well. You see the different trends, and there's this whole expectation of society on what you should look like, especially when it comes to women's weight. So those are the different hot topics that come to mind, and like how we get so entrenched in some of those trends or our ideal this or that. So yeah, definitely goes out to, not only our students, but, teachers and parents, adults as well have to deal with it as well. So I think another thing that comes to mind is sometimes, even ourselves, we can be our own enemies in terms of not loving and respecting ourselves. If we set too high of expectations where we're not really set up for success for ourselves, that can really be very painstakingly, like, you're going to suffer from that if you're actually setting too high of goals. In a sense, I know it sounds ridiculous maybe to some people, but if it's something that's like out of your reach, you don't have the right resources, or you're not in the right state of mind, the place, it's not realistic or practical for you to achieve those things. So sometimes we have to reel it back and scaffold it for ourselves to be able to take those baby steps and progress forward too. So I think that's what my mind leads, goes to at this point, on top of what the general topic is. So I'd be curious from our special guests here, if you can think of a time where maybe you set those expectations too high for yourself, and how you navigated through that, and what you did to still find respect and love for yourself. I'll go first real quick then, if it helps. So, I mean, growing up as an athlete, I think the expectations were to be the best at every skill set, at every, technical understanding, tactical understanding. So expecting myself to always be the best player, whether it be on the pitch, on the soccer field, or on the basketball court, even through injury, I think was too much, because a lot of the times, I mean, unfortunately for my family, there were a lot of ankle injuries. I don't know if it's genetic, but it just so happened myself, my brother, and my sister, we just have had, just terrible experiences with spraining our ankle. Fortunately, no fractures to our ankles, but just a ton of sprains. So even through that, we had to, push ourselves to max out our limit, and it wasn't the safest, because it actually put us in a poor situation where we were just making the injury worse, and it basically kept us from participating and with less mobility, and so on and so forth. So I mean, that's just a quick example for me in my past growing up, where that too high of an expectation, something that wasn't practical or realistic, kind of bit back at me.
And it might also make you feel bad about yourself, and that's what it is, right? Is that if failure, if you set too high of a goal for yourself and you experience failure, you might have low self-esteem, when in reality, like, we all need a win, and wins make us feel good. So we should really set expectations in a way that we're going to be able to celebrate our progress. So I am curious if there's something big or small that our guests can speak to that would help our students feel like even adults have a hard time keeping our self-esteem up during difficult times.
I mean, I'm just going to be vulnerable out here, I guess. So I think one of the things I really struggled with is when I first started teaching, like, I just thought like I was doing a horrible job. There were just so many things that were going on. And I felt like I was really hard on myself if I didn't you know, get the approval of someone to be like, you're doing a great job. Or if I had a student who maybe like we weren't having the best relationship, like I would think about it all the time. And so I think what my problem was, I started, you know, thinking my self-worth was based on my performance that I did in my job, and only looking at certain things that I wasn't doing very well. So I wasn't looking at like those successful things of like when I had students be like, give me a card or give me those things, I'd love them to be like, that's really great, I love those things, but I want all my students to feel that way. Or I did really good in this area, but I didn't do good in that, or I messed up on these like line things, like these little things. And it was really hurting my self-esteem. Like I just felt like I was basically basing who I was on my performance at my job. And I had to really take a big step back and be like, okay, you're more than just what you perform at work. You're also a human being. You also have all these great things with yourself. And it's okay to not always get that gold star. Like it doesn't mean. And then I think to go even beyond that is you can tell yourself that you're doing a good job. There's like some days where even now today, like I love my job. I feel really good about myself. I love where I'm at. And I think the reason why is because there's weeks where you don't get that like shout out, or you don't get that appreciation, or you're just tired and stressed. And what I do is I'll do a list. I'll be like, okay, Sadio, you did a great job. You did this today, you did that today, you did that, you did that. And I'll list it out because that helps me, because when I was a teacher, I felt very like burnt out sometimes. And so being able to validate myself and be able to be like, I'm doing great. And then being able to forgive myself if I'm not perfect and if I'm not performing the way I think I should. That was huge game changer in my life.
Nice.
I think similarly, thank you for going first, Mr. Dio, because then you allowed me to formulate my own thoughts. But I think I'm very competitive, and I think this might have something to do with my own upbringing and some of the challenges that I had to overcome, or the feelings that I had growing up, right? That maybe you're not good enough, or you're not, basically this idea of you're not good enough. And I think so, so there were some situations at home, some situations in my neighborhood where I grew up, where the message, even from teachers, actually, when I was in middle school, the messaging was constant. There's this idea that you're not good enough. And so I think that I've struggled at different times throughout my career as I am becoming a teacher, as I'm becoming a dean of students, as I'm becoming directors of different programs, because there's always been that doubt, like, am I good enough? Like, am I good enough? Am I good enough? Because this is all rooted on the way that I was raised. And so there have definitely been instances where I think the bar that I've set has been very, very high. And it's almost like you're supposed to be this picture perfect, like everything, you do everything right, your job, whatever you do, whether it was teaching or like everything's supposed to be perfect. And if not, then I'm working my butt off. Like I'm working and working and working and working and working, trying to become great, or trying to prove to everybody that I am great. And so that has, that has created its own dysfunction in my own life. There's been different time periods where I think, people around me, maybe I've neglected people around me. And I've neglected myself, really. Like, instead of taking care of myself, loving myself, I'm out there working my butt off, putting in 16 hours a day, trying to prove something that is kind of actually imaginary. I mean, the reality is it's in some ways imaginary. So I think as I'm getting older and kind of learning more, and thank you, Ms. Lar, for putting this together for the students now, because hopefully they'll learn it now. They won't waste as much time. I'm just realizing that, I measure myself, based on what's real, what's, as much as possible. It's like, hey, this is what I accomplished, like Mr. Dio said. And tomorrow's another day to keep trying and keep working, but not in this obsessive kind of way of trying to prove people right. It's like, I mean, it is what it is. You do the best you can, and have a little grace for yourself.
Yeah, thank you both for sharing.
If I could kind of touch on this enough kind of idea, is that, for our students, in the context of how they might experience their daily lives, is that they're struggling with their identity and what they like and what's popular or in or out and what's trending. And so if you go to school and you look a different way. You wear clothing that is not very popular, or, maybe it's just like not the best clothing and people give you a hard time for that. Well, then, okay, you're going to not feel so good about yourself. You're going to change your clothes. Okay, great. You're changing your clothes to fit in. And the next thing you know, kids don't like your haircut. Great. What now? So I have to go and change my hair. And then you come back and now you're not wearing enough makeup or you don't have enough muscles. It's really not healthy to have the definition of what you should be based on what other people want you or need you to be for their approval. Because now if I've made all these changes to myself, what happened to the person that I like, how I want to show up, who I am? It's been cast away because of how I want to fit in with other people. And maybe my self-esteem might be lower, or I've sacrificed something. I've sacrificed who I truly am in order to fit in with other people and have self-esteem in a different way, like social self-esteem, instead of the kind of self-esteem like both of you are talking about, where it's built on yourself and your own definitions. I think that this is a lesson that it takes years for adults to build. We have to go through it all. We have to go through being rejected in middle school, high school, college, the workplace. It takes unconditional love, truthfully, unconditional acceptance for us to realize, like, oh my gosh, I'm good enough how I am, just the way I am. That unconditional acceptance, I wish Jorge had been given to you for your teachers. Your teachers could have unconditionally said, you have potential, keep going. And Miss Adio, you can say to yourself, like, unconditionally, I know that I work hard and I'm a good teacher and I can keep doing this. This kind of unconditional love we should have for ourselves that says, no matter what, I know I'm deserving of love and respect and I can treat myself that way. That's really what we want our students to know sooner rather than later.
Yeah, and can I chime in here? One of the things students that might be listening is this idea that after you've made all these changes to your identity, to yourself, right? Then what happens, like you've done A, B, C, D, everything. And then all of a sudden at the end, there might be some people who's like, we still don't like you, or we still don't. And it's like, what the heck are you gonna do then? It's like, oh man, like this is really bad, right? Like, let me start over, go to another group and let me start from scratch and see if it works that way, right? Mm-hmm. You're just gonna spend your whole life trying to, like those little gophers, or not gophers, those little animals that you put in this spinning wheel, right? Hamsters. You just be like a little hamster in a spinning wheel and you never quite get anywhere. So thank you for that example, Ms. Lara.
Yes, I love that. And if I could add to that, yeah, I think one of the biggest things to learn is sometimes you're going to have people who just don't agree with you, don't approve you, don't like you, and you can't bend yourself to get their approval. At some point, you can have a conversation with them, you can try to talk it out, but at some point, you got to create that boundary of like, you know what, this person doesn't appreciate me for who I am for some reason. They don't want me in their life for some reasons going on. I got to let them do their thing. And I got to go find people who actually love me and appreciate me for me. And actually, you know what? I already have people who do that, and go to my friends and family that, that I feel that about it. So you're not changing yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, those are phenomenal points that both of you made. We really appreciate everything that you've shared so far. I know when we get to discussions like this, we definitely want to extend the conversation, but we've been keeping it to about 25 to 30 minutes. With the last few minutes though, I'm curious if you guys have any advice for our students. We have obviously high school students represented here, and middle school and elementary school and students represented here. I know you guys already touched on several different points, but given the current standing right now, especially with the pandemic continuing, I'm just curious if you guys have any specific advice for our middle school students, high school students, and elementary students.
So I'll go first here. I think when I listen to this conversation, or as I participate in it, one of the things that comes to mind is the fact that our students, and you are all going to be like in a range, right? Some of you are listening to primarily positive messages about yourself, whether it's through family, through school, through whatever. And then we have a range. Some of you are listening like more and more negative, more and more negative, more and more negative, more and more negative from family, friends, community, etc., all the way down to like you're just hearing a whole lot of negativity. And you guys are all in a different range, right? And it's affecting you in different ways. And obviously for for those of you that are experiencing a lot of negativity, whether it's coming from your own parents, your siblings, your tias, tios, your family, I mean, your community, etc. I guess what I want you to know is there's two things. I still want you, if you were to close your eyes and listen to the amount of messages you're getting about yourself, I want you to be very cognizant of where are you getting positive messages from? Like, be cognizant, where are you getting positive messages from? Is it your teachers? Is it, Mr. Sale? Like, where are you getting those? And make sure that you're leaning into that. Make sure that you're connecting and spending and investing a little bit of time, a little bit more time in those places where you're getting positive messages. As much as you can control that, spend more time there. Right now, if you're saying like, wow, I just thought about this and spent some time kind of analyzing and I have only one person, or actually I'm realizing I don't have anybody, you're kind of in trouble. Like, and you're in trouble in a sense that you need to then think, okay, well, it sounds like I'm not talking to enough people. It sounds like I'm surrounded and I've surrounded myself with a lot of negativity. So let me reach out to Ms. Lar, let me reach out to Mr. Sale, let me reach out. Like, I know that there's some staffs out there that maybe I haven't opened up to yet, but I want them to get to know me, because I guarantee you that no matter how much negativity you are listening to or you've heard growing up, once people get to know the real you, you are valuable. You are an amazing human being with so much potential. Like, you have no idea, but you have not connected with the right people. So make sure that you come out of your shell a little bit, trust a little bit. It's going to require that you take a risk. But, start paying attention to people that seem to just be kind of positive, or other students are kind of gravitating to, and open up. Start, it's weird maybe at first, but start talking to them. Let them get to know you, because I'm telling you, once they know you, you're special. I mean, that's what it comes down to. You as a young person, you have so much in front of you, so much potential. You are absolutely special. Make sure that people get to discover that, so that you can start to hear the truth about yourself.
Fabulous.
Yeah, wonderfully spoken. Thank you so much for that. Ms. Adil?
Man, I don't know how to follow that, but I think I would say the main thing is you're enough. Like, you are enough. And if you don't hear those words enough, I'm saying it right now, you are enough. No matter what your grades are, no matter what's going on at home or your family, what you're hearing, you're enough. And I think, like Jorge said, if you don't have people in your life that you can, go to, that you have, people you can reach out at school, and try to, think of that one friend. Hopefully you have that one friend that you can go to. But you are enough, and try to tell yourself that as much as you can. It's so hard when you're younger, because you're just like, no, I don't believe that. And I mean, I wish we had these type of conversations when I was younger, because this did not exist. And I know how lonely it can feel and how bad it can feel. And I just want everyone to know that they're enough as they are, and be able to be kind to themselves.
Well, thank you so much for both of you. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a lot in this conversation. There's more to talk about. We always encourage our students, our parents, and even staff to continually have those types of discussions. Obviously, there are tons of resources out there through our counselor, Ms. Lara, and also the resources that she can provide to you. I do want to go over this for the last minute or so, but if you haven't done your survey yet, students, this is what it looks like every week, okay? Something like this, where there's a video attached and several different questions that we want you to respond to. Now, if you do miss our episodes ever, you can always go back and check out the short clips on our Instagram page. And it's posted here under the IGTV tab here, so make sure to click that. If you want to find the full episodes, you can always check out our YouTube channel on YouTube, obviously under Alpha Blanca. Okay, so that concludes our discussion, and we thank you so much for our guests, both of you, Arellano and Sadil. Ms. Lar, do you have any closing comments?
No, just I want everyone to know that they have our support at our school, and that we obviously all care very deeply, so that our students don't have to go through unnecessary pain, and that we can all lean on each other to learn better. So looking forward to next week.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for having me here. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.